Chris. I'm Alex, former Miss Kentucky, and I just wanted to give a shout out to your podcast, Live with CDP, which is on Audio Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, Radio Public, Breaker Podcast, and LinkedIn. That's incredible. I hope you continue to grow your podcast, and if it's something you enjoy, more power to you, because we all need to pursue our passions a little bit more every day. So congratulations to you for your podcast. Stay strong with it, and I hope you have many great episodes in the seasons to come.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP podcast, season 2, episode 46. And I'm looking forward to my podcast this afternoon with pro wrestler Gigi Rey with Reality of Wrestling, ROW, out of the Houston, Texas area. And I'm looking forward to talking to her about her career in pro wrestling, how she started up in Canada, and then how she moved over to Reality of Wrestling and is over in Texas area right now. So if you guys can just give me a minute or so, I'll bring on Gigi as well. And like I said, I appreciate everybody tuning in on my YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter page as well. And later on audio as well. So just give me 1 second, and I'm going to bring Gigi on right here. And hey, how you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Thank you again so much for coming on today to Live with CDP.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. This is my first interview of 2022, and it's nice to do it with another Canadian. So nice to talk to a Canadian audience.
No problem. And no issues with getting on with my StreamYard link?
No, it was fine.
Yeah, StreamYard is great. My friend in Philadelphia got me on StreamYard instead of Zoom for my podcast. So it's very user-friendly for the host and the guests as well. Anyways, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Time-wise, you okay with 40-45 minutes? Or okay, just wanted to double check. So I guess you got a card coming up on, what, January 29th, I believe?
Yes, I do. January 29th, I am wrestling for Mission Pro Wrestling, which is Thunder Rosa's promotion here out of Texas. And so that is in Conroe, which was like maybe an hour outside of Houston. But then I'm actually wrestling this weekend as well, January 8th, for Reality of Wrestling here in the Houston area as well.
And what's that experience been like, being with that wrestling organization?
Reality of Wrestling is awesome. It's very well produced. There's so much talent. There's so many people to learn from and just to kind of develop your skills. It's a really great platform, and yeah, it's a great place to train and to learn.
And I was going to say, Booker T is the owner. He operates that. What's it been like dealing with Booker T in that?
Booker's awesome. He's Booker T. Like, he's super charismatic. He really he has so much wrestling knowledge over like his years and years of being in the business, and it's available to all of us. He'll come in and critique us, what we're doing, where we can make things look a bit better, more crisp. So yeah, he's a great mentor. It's a great place. He's a great person to learn from, and he's taught so many people already. So when you're training with people that have trained with Booker, you get a little bit of that knowledge passed down to you as well too when he's not there as well. So
I was going to say, and people who just look at AEW, WWE, but everybody needs to start somewhere, and it's great to have these independent leagues for young and up and coming wrestlers. Like, I went to a independent card in Guelph, where I live here in Ontario, a month and a half ago, and I was thoroughly entertained for 2 hours, and it was really great. And that's why I was so glad you could come on, because like I said, I was a wrestling fan back in the 80s and 90s, and then there's about a 10-year gap. I kind of lost interest in it, but now watching AEW and some of these other independent leagues in Ontario, I've gotten back into wrestling again, and people don't realize how much work there is behind the scenes too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's because outside of like just the athleticism that you see in the ring and like the actual wrestling, it is a show, it is a production, it's there for entertainment. It's, I don't know, you've heard it on other things. It's kind of like a Broadway. Like, it's a show that you're putting on. You're there to entertain the fans and the audience that watches it. So it's a lot more than just like the in-ring work that you see. There's a lot of outside storytelling, in-ring storytelling, building up your character. There's ways to get people invested. Like, there's so much to wrestling that like people, I don't really think, understand unless you really pay attention to it.
And also, too, you got to build up in-ring chemistry with your opponents too.
Mhm.
And sometimes, how long does that normally take? Is it sometimes instant with your opponent, or sometimes
It
you take
depends,
a
yeah, like, sometimes just the way you move and they move, you can just play off each other really well, and you just kinda have that chemistry right away. With other people, it takes a little bit of time. Every body is different, every person, how they move, how they wanna interpret things is different too, the way you communicate. So, yeah, so it's sometimes you have it with people, and then if you don't have that chemistry, you work on it, and you can definitely build it, but there are definitely some people that your wrestling styles just click right away, which is like really, really cool to see and experience.
And how big is the roster for reality of wrestling right now?
It's like it's fairly. I don't know. I don't know what a normal roster is supposed to be like. How many people you want to say? There's definitely like I don't know people that are used regularly on Row, and then they'll also bring in people as well too. So I wouldn't say it's like a massive, massive roster, but there is opportunity for other people to come onto the roster if or do a couple shows and go somewhere else. But I think there is kind of like a core group of people there. That's I don't know, maybe like I don't want to say a number. I'm not
Okay,
sure how many there are, but
yeah, no problem. One thing I wanted to ask you, when you're with reality of wrestling, are you able to wrestle with other independents too, or are you on a contract basis?
no, you can wrestle for other independent promotions as well, and that was kind of one of my big selling factors to come down to Texas was that even though I'm based in Houston, there's like a bunch of other promotions in Houston that I can also wrestle for, and same with like in other cities as well that like aren't as far away. Like when I was wrestling back in Canada, you could wrestle like for one company in Edmonton, but if you wanted to go wrestle for another company, it had to be like not in Edmonton. It had to be in Calgary or like a smaller little town like Red Deer or something like that. There had to be like a division. Whereas like in Houston, you can wrestle for like any promotion that will welcome you and have you on, which is really cool.
And I had to ask you this too, since you're from even Alberta or Edmonton. Um, which wrestlers? I think I know the answer, but I got to ask you. Was it the Hart family that kind of got you into wrestling, like the
Oh
Hart,
yeah, of
like Chris
course. How
Hart?
could it not be? Like I'm
Yeah,
from Edmonton.
yeah.
I grew up in this like neighborhood called Millwoods. But yeah, Edmonton's right above Calgary, and I grew up watching wrestling. So it's like there wasn't like the Hart family was huge. They were like they're Canadian royalty practically. So yeah, of course, like they were like big influences for me when I started watching wrestling.
Have you ever had any dealings with Bret Hart yet?
I have not. I did meet Natty once, and but that was about it.
Okay, I
Yeah,
was gonna say,
I think that was
yeah,
the closest.
yeah, because to me, him and Jim Neihart and the whole Hart Foundation and that dungeon and that. Have you been to the dungeon in Calgary yet?
No, I have not. I always remember though when I was a kid when we drive through Calgary, I'd always be like looking out to see if I could see the Hart House somewhere because I just knew it was this big red brick house, and but I never saw it.
I was gonna say, and everybody doesn't realize this too. There's a lot of great Canadian wrestlers out there,
Hmm.
and there has been in the past in that as well. So,
Yeah. Well,
um,
then it's cool too with a lot of the Canadian wrestlers. Like a lot of them were trained through the Hart Dungeon, so it's like that makes like being from Alberta and like a little bit more special in the wrestling world anyway because like you're kind of right in the thick of like all that wrestling history where so many people have come through and trained and so it's really cool.
did you have any other than the Hart family and Natalie? Did you have any other influence wrestlers that influenced you, male and female?
I think growing up, like I really loved Eddie Guerrero. Growing up, he was always one of my favorites. Kurt Angle was one of my favorites too. And kind of like how you said, you kind of got out of watching wrestling for a while. So I probably stopped watching wrestling around. Chris Jericho was one of my favorites as well. Um, I kind of stopped watching wrestling around like the 2008 all the way up to like 2015. And then once I started watching wrestling again, like AJ Styles is like my guy. Like he is like probably my biggest inspiration for wrestling now. And yeah, so I take a lot of my wrestling inspiration from AJ.
Well, and like I said, this card that I was in Guelph about a month and a half ago, really good card. The wrestlers were friendly with their fans. Everything was done safe with obviously the COVID here in Ontario, and it was really great, and I'm having a ringside seat. You see how athletic these men and women are, and it's not easy work. You have to put a lot of work into it, like with your training, the cardio, and also like you mentioned before, being a good actor as well as an actress.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing too. It's like it is wrestling is a very very athletic business, and but that's not the only thing. You do have to have character. You do have to do a lot of like acting as well, not just on your character, but like even when you're in the ring, to make it look like as real as possible. So yeah, it's not an easy task, but the more you work at it, the better you get at it, and I hope I'm on that way. So
And it's not a typical Monday 8 to 4 job either. You
no,
put
it
in
definitely is not.
you can put in
And you
three.
always kind of have to explain when you tell someone you're a wrestler, like what you actually mean by it. Because a lot of times, if it comes up in conversation, like, oh, like I wrestle, they think I'm doing like amateur wrestling, which is like awesome too. But then you have to tell them, like, oh, no, it's like the pro wrestling, like the WWE stuff you see on TV. And I don't know, people still pop for that too. But some
I was
people are
gonna
like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird, but that's fine.
And I was going to say, how many days a year do you approximately put in the industry?
How many days a year?
Yeah, approximately.
Oh, it's a lot because it's like with wrestling, I guess when you watch like the TV product, there's no like off season like how there is with baseball and basketball and football and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And even when you're on the independents, there's still not really an off season either. But I remember like I used to play basketball, and like even if it were in season time, you're still training, you're still trying to like get into the gym and shoot around and stuff as much as you can. So I know as long as it's a priority to you, it's like you're not going to take an off season because you want to get better every day because everyone else is trying to get better too. So you don't want to fall behind.
And I was going to say too, injury wise, have you been able to avoid those, or do you get your bumps? Yeah, I guess you get your bumps and bruises in that as well.
Oh yeah, like as a wrestler, you'll just wake up with random bruises. You're like, I don't know how this happened, but there's a bruise there. Right when I actually started training initially, I think 4 weeks into it, I ended up breaking my hand and like my bone like right in half. Had
Oh,
surgery, a plate, a bunch of screws to kind of put it back together. But I loved it so much, and that wasn't going to stop me. And thankfully, it was my hand, so it's like I can it's not like a leg or like an arm, like it's just like the last part of my arm. So once it was healed, I was able to start training right away and get back in there. So that's the thing too. You really just have to take care of your body, eating right,
nutrition.
exercising, stretching, like whatever you can do to kind of like keep everything not all jammed up all the time. Massage, chiro, everything.
I was going to say, how much of adjustment was it going from Edmonton area to Texas?
It was big. It was big. And I think like I've been here in the States for just over 6 months now, going on to 7 months. And at first, I didn't really like notice too much of a difference. I think just because I was so excited to be here. But now it's like, it is a little bit different. And I didn't realize how much I loved and appreciated Canada and being Canadian more than I have now that like I'm not in Canada anymore.
Sometimes.
And yeah, it's just a little bit different. Just like the culture's not that different, but the vibe is a little bit different in the States than it is in Canada.
Yeah, and right now Ontario's in a partial lockdown again as well. I guess the variant. So I had a gentleman from an independent wrestling organization here, and he said he has to shut down for at least 3 weeks again. So and it's tough on these small businesses, especially these small independent wrestling businesses when they do have shutdowns here and as well. Now, do they have any protocols for the wrestling there, or is it pretty well you do what you have to do to protect your health and all that?
A little bit of that. It's definitely like encouraged to be vaccinated, and if you are going to go to events, to still wear masks. Nothing's really like enforced. Well, other than like getting tested wise when you're wrestling people, like that's like a pretty like standard thing. But like attending events and like so if a promotion was to put on an event, they would maybe just encourage you to wear your mask. People are going to do what they want. It's not as like you have to be safe, but they're not like overbearing about it with people. I think we're at the stage now. Anyway, that's the vibe I get here in Texas. We're at the stage now that it's like, the risks. You're putting yourself at risk. You're going to put other people at risk too if you're not protecting yourself. And with wearing masks, getting vaccinated, but it's kind of on you now to take care of yourself. And
No.
So it's nice that we're still open and we do have more liberties down here. But it is really unfortunate that in Canada it's still like kind of a fight. It's still this big like thing.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm just going to get some questions. I was going to ask you, I did have a video clip from the title match network. When I'm done the questions with you, is it okay if I play a 2-minute clip of one of your matches?
Sure. Depends what match it is, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Because I like
No, it's
to
all
highlight.
good.
I do this with all my guests, where I like
No,
to
it's cool.
take a 2-minute video, 3-minute video off YouTube, and just show my audience a little bit of their work and stuff like that. And I was quite impressive with this. I should have emailed you that, so that me bad on that, but I'm
No, you're
learning.
good. You're good.
Okay, okay, no problem. I worry you too much, but I'm still learning all this stuff with podcasts and technology. It just changes all the time, eh?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm not very tech savvy, so good on you.
Well, thank you. I've had to learn that. Can you just tell my audience again just a little bit about yourself and when did you decide like you knew you wanted to pursue a career as a pro wrestler? And you already answered my other question about male, female wrestlers that influence your direction. If you could just answer the top question, yeah.
Yeah, so I know I was always a fan of pro wrestling growing up. I've always been really athletic. I've always been involved in athletics. So I think as the older I got, just trying to try newer things. I was trying to do some like kickboxing classes and MMA classes and stuff. And then I realized like, well, I really just love wrestling. So I want to give that a try. And then once I tried it, I just loved it. And I knew it was something I wanted to pursue. It was something that I felt like I had a natural ability in doing. So I really wanted to hone in on that because I've had a lot of other like athletic skills, but nothing has really clicked as much as like wrestling has. And I'm still new at it. I'm still learning more every day. So I'm just really excited for like the journey I have coming up in pro wrestling.
Okay. And that leads to my next question. Where did you attend school, and did you have any mentor or mentors when you were first breaking out in the wrestling industry that kind of gave you some guidance?
Oh yeah, definitely. So when I first started wrestling, it was for this promotion called Force Pro Wrestling, and that was out of Edmonton, Alberta. And they kind of had their own little training school, and it was led by Michael Richard Blaze, and he is still like my like number one trainer mentor to like this day. I still talk to him like pretty frequently just to get like more like wrestling advice from him. So he has a hand in training so many people in Western Canada, especially in Alberta. And so he's been really awesome. Later on, we kind of moved over to Top Talent Wrestling Academy, which is owned by a wrestler named Heavy Metal. So him and Michael together, their training. I think Michael's done stuff with like WWE and like all over the States and UK. And Heavy Metal has worked in Mexico at AAA. So it's like they do have so much wrestling knowledge to share. And they're two of like the greatest guys you can learn from, definitely in Western Canada. That was kind of where I started all my training, where I kind of really kind of caught that wrestling bug. And then I know I just wanted to branch out and do more and experience more. So that's when I made the move down to Reality of Wrestling here in Houston. I kind of just called them up one day to be like, hey, I want to come train down there. They're like, yeah, sure, come on down. So yeah, I've been here ever since.
Okay, and that answers that. My next question, you've already answered that too. I've learned about listening skills, but this one I had to ask you. Do you remember your first wrestling match and your opponent, and how nervous were you at first when you got in the ring?
Oh yeah, my first wrestling match was against a female named Zoe Sager, who also trained, who I would train with. She was trained by Michael Richard Blaze as well, also by Lance Storm. She was trained by. That was kind of like her first wrestling training. And so I had my first match with her in January of 2020. And I remember I was just so nervous for it. It was like my first time going out there. I had only started training like 3 months before that in October with like, and then with breaking my hand and then going into a match like a couple months later. So it was like a lot really, really fast. But it was awesome. It was, I don't know if I'd ever want, like, I think I would watch that match back, but I think just from where I've like come from now, from that first match, I've definitely grown a lot.
And what kind of style do you have? Are you kind of more of a brawler type, or are you more of kind of a finesse type wrestler, like a technique type wrestler, like type like a Charlotte Flair type?
Um, I don't know. I think I'm more of like a hybrid. I'm not really like a brawler, but I'm not very like technical as well either. It's kind of like a mix of both. I don't know. I kind of have these like long arms and limbs, so I try to jump and forearm people and try to just like, I don't know. I'm not that scared of heights either, so like I don't mind like jumping off stuff. And so
Okay.
yeah,
How tall are you anyways?
I'm 5'5",
5'5". Okay. But I was
which
gonna
doesn't
say,
sound very tall, but I don't know. Compared to some of the girls around, I'm a little bit taller than them.
yeah, I was gonna say, what's it like doing the aerial attack? Do you do the top rope or do you do the middle one? There's some wrestlers I've talked to that they're more comfortable staying off of jumping, and then there's some that are completely comfortable jumping off the top rope.
It depends. Like that's another thing too. It's like I say I'm not scared of being on like jumping off stuff, but it is a big like mental thing as well too. And the thing is too, when you're training doing that stuff, it's like you are putting yourself at risk to like injure yourself if you're not doing it properly. And then so it is something like you have to like practice. You kind of just have, it depends on what you're doing really. Like if you want like something really big and really like flashy, like you should go to the top. If you just want something kind of like to get a pop or something in the middle, like go to the second. So it depends on what you want to do, I guess.
And what I was gonna say too, gymnastics, because a lot of that stuff too is gymnastics as well. So
Yeah, and there's some men and females who are just absolutely phenomenal athletes and gymnasts and stuff, and that stuff looks like super cool. I don't really have like, I'm a little too like, I don't want to say rugged, but I don't know. I'm a little I don't even want to say that either, but I'm just not as like gymnasty as some people, but I'll try.
have you had a manager yet when you're gone down to the ring, or not quite yet?
I have not had a manager yet. I don't think so. Um, I managed for one match back in Canada once for clandestine. And then I don't think I've had anyone ever come out to the ring with me yet. Oh, I feel bad if someone has, but I don't think I have.
I was gonna say, and have you done any tag team matches yet, or has it been all solo matches so far?
I've done a couple tag team matches. I don't think I've ever done like a classic tag team, like 2 versus 2. But I think I've done like a 2 6-man tags I've done. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I was gonna ask you this about
Or
reality
three,
of
three
wrestling.
6-man tags I've done.
Do they? Okay. Do they do any intergender matches? Because I know this one card in Guelph, they had intergender cards, and the female wrestlers held their own with the male wrestlers, and it was actually quite good. I wasn't sure if Reality of Wrestling does the intergender, or is it just traditional men versus men, women versus women?
I don't know for sure if Reality of Wrestling has done intergender. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But there's definitely a lot of promotions around in Texas that do intergender matches, and I know a lot of the promotions in Canada do as well. And I mean, if it's done right,
Yes.
it's just as good. Like obviously, it's like you're still telling a story, so like the story has to make sense. But if it does, it's wrestling. Like anything can happen in wrestling. So yeah, intergender matches are super fun, and I think that's one of the things too. That's like being a female in the wrestling industry. Obviously, it's like it's a little like there's not as many female wrestlers as there is men wrestlers, obviously. So when you are training with a lot of the guys, and they're super helpful. And so it's like, and then even with the guys, it's like girls are lighter than other guys are, so they can get away with doing big power stuff too, right? So it can definitely be really fun and super entertaining to watch if it's done properly.
And I was going to say this too. In my opinion, female wrestling has come a long ways in the last 10, 15 years with Natalie,
Definitely.
Jim Neidhart's daughter, and obviously Charlotte Flair, who to me is her female version of her dad, Ric Flair. And I find the female wrestling product is just as good as the males nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. And to be honest, that was another big reason why I wanted to get into wrestling. I think at the time when I kind of fell out of it, because women weren't really having matches anymore. Like Trish was gone, Lita was gone. So it kind of went back to that whole diva search type era, which is like totally fine. But like those women weren't as athletic as they still were. They weren't really getting the time to like showcase anything. And then that finally started to pick up around like the mid like 2015 2016 with like Sasha and Charlotte and all those girls coming out. So that really inspired me too, to like, because those girls were having really good wrestling matches, and I wanted to be a part of that. And even down here, it's like there's been times, and I don't know, they could be just blowing smoke up my ass, but it's like we're the only women's match on the card, and then people tell us it was one of the best matches on the card, not because we were the girls, because it was the best match and it had the best story, and we bought people into what we were trying to like tell them to in the story we were trying to tell them. So like that means a lot, and it means a lot to me that like that tide is turning, that people are starting to respect women's wrestling more than they did, because there is still that market for like, the bra and panty type matches. Nothing wrong with that. And there's still that market. But I think more and more women's wrestling is turning into like just wrestling. And that's, and I love that.
And I was going to say, this one I was going to ask you, I've learned to ad lib on questions too. Average time of a match, like, is it normally about 6 to 10 minutes? And so far, what has been your longest match time wise so far?
Yes, 6 minutes is probably the average. And it depends on like what type of show you're on as well, or what story they're trying to tell, what they're trying to get over. 6 to 8 is maybe my average match is probably like 6 to 8. It always feels a lot longer in the ring than when you're done. But the biggest thing, especially when you're working a lot of shows down here, is like you have to be on your time. Because if you're not on your time, you're taking away from someone else's match. If someone goes over their time, they're taking away from your match, like vice versa. So it's really important to like get your timing right and tell that story within the time that you're given. So yeah, 6 to 8 is probably the average. The longest match I was ever in, and it was like a multiple person match, it was like a 6-man tag, was like 45 minutes. And like, I didn't have to do 45 minutes of work, thank God, because I was still like so new into like wrestling and stuff. But that one's probably the longest. Singles match, I think I had like maybe a 12-minute match somewhere. But.
Wow. So that just brings up cardio right there. The longer the match goes, you've got to really watch your cardio and pace yourself. Because I've talked to a wrestler before, and she's like, yeah, you want to have good cardio if you go beyond 6 minutes, because you don't want to be huffing and puffing out of breath at the 10 or 12-minute mark.
No, and that's just it. And it's like, yeah, you need to have your cardio up. And it's like wrestling cardio is way different than like just like going out for a run. Like obviously like go for a run like that, it's going to improve your cardio. But like when you're in the ring, you're stop go, you're talking, you know what I mean? It's like you're selling, like you're using your body in so many different ways that you need to keep your cardio like up. It's like when you see like a singer performing stuff, they're moving around and singing. It's like that's a lot of work if you're like singing and moving around at the same time. Wrestling's kind of similar in that sense, not that you're like talking a lot, but you definitely have to go at different paces and pick up, slow down, and yeah, it's a good workout, definitely.
Okay. If we're still okay for time, is it okay if I just show a little clip of one of your matches from the Title Match Network? Okay, 1 second, and I'm just going to bring it on, and I'll turn the 1 sec. Yep. And I'm just sorting all this still too. Can you hear it okay?
Yeah, I can hear it okay.
Okay. I think this match was 2019.
No, this is actually just from the summertime.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this was from end of July.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, in Conroe, Texas, at Mission Pro, where I'm going to be wrestling again at the end of this month. Same venue, same promotion, different opponent, but same place.
Okay. Are you okay just me showing this for just a couple of minutes? And this is courtesy of the Title Match Network, so hopefully there's not any issues with me showing it on my podcast. I know with WWE, they're very strict about copyright and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So how long before you do a match, Gigi, do you and your opponent talk about for like a half an hour or so how you want the match to go?
It depends. Depends how much like time you have, what you want to do. It's always good to come to a match with ideas that you want to do. That way you can try and get them over. But yeah, it depends on the situation, I guess. But
and
yeah, typically.
Who has the final say in the match result? Is it the promoter, I guess, or how did that work?
Oh, we're spilling all the secrets here on this podcast.
Okay. Have you faced her before this match, or this the first time?
So no, this was actually the first time we had ever met. Both her and I had attended a wrestling seminar, training seminar earlier that day. That was held by Mission Pro in Thunder Rosa. And both her and I were chosen from that seminar to have this match on the card later on that night. And it was really cool because I had just moved to Texas at this point. I'd probably been here for maybe just at a month at that point, and I got this opportunity. Lady Bird Monroe had just started training probably like 7 months before this, and her and I, we after this we stayed in contact and we wrestled a couple other shows together. We did a couple shows together in Austin, Texas. We did a program together that was awesome. And yeah, she is phenomenal, and her and I are really, really close. We're good friends, her and I now, which is like kind of cool, like to look back. I was wondering if this was going to be the match that you picked, but it's cool that like the story that like Lady Bird and I have, like especially even now in present day.
So I did okay picking this match then.
You did. It's not my greatest match, but it's a good memory. It's definitely like kind of like was the kickstart for my wrestling journey here in the States, definitely. And it's cool that it's like Lady Bird's a part of it, and she's one of like my closest friends. So,
who played the baby face and who played the heel?
Oh, you can't tell that I'm not doing my job in this case.
I should have said, what do you prefer playing, the baby face or the heel?
You know, I've done both now. When I started wrestling, I was always a heel. But I actually really enjoy working as a baby face. It's definitely like I don't know. It's tough to say, but I don't know. Both are cool. I like both of them. I'm a little partial to baby right now because I've been working more as a baby lately. But yeah, I enjoyed working both styles.
Do you have a say in that, or is it up to the promoter to decide what the wrestlers are going to be, like babyface or heel or whatever? How does that work?
It's kind of up to the promoter, but it's also up to you as well. It's like if you're strong in like who you are and your character, they'll kind of like go with whatever works on the show, right? Because you are a character at like the end of the day. But I mean, you can wrestle like as a heel but like still be like a baby face. You just have to like structure your match a little bit differently. But yeah, there are very, very different characters to play. But yeah, it's kind of up to the promotion. It's kind of up to you. It's a little bit of 50-50, I guess, maybe.
I was going to say, do they ever have babyface versus babyface matches, or is it the traditional babyface versus heel matches?
Again, it depends on like where you're wrestling and what they're doing. I had a match not too long ago where we're both kind of baby faces in it. Someone just has to be like a little bit more aggressive. And it also depends on the audience too. So yeah, so then you kind of just have to make sure you're telling what story you're telling behind that. If you're trying to get like still, get people both over as a face, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because being a longtime wrestling fan, I remember the first ever babyface versus babyface match was WrestleMania 5, the Warrior and Hogan, and the crowd was 50-50, and that was one of the best main events of all time. That match with Hogan and Warrior, and being a Warrior fan, I was shocked that he won the title from Hogan that year too.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, yeah, in this match, it looks like it went around, wow, the video footage I have is about 6 minutes. So,
yeah, I think it was 6 minutes with entrances. I think we had planned for a little bit longer of time, but that's wrestling.
And I was going to say, and okay, that's what you wanted right there.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, and that clip again was courtesy of a Title Match Network. So thank you so much for letting me play that clip.
Of course.
And that leads to my next question too. And I've learned the ad-lib too. Your entrance music. How did you go about picking your entrance music?
Yeah, so I love my entrance music. I can't use it at Reality of Wrestling though. My entrance music is Humble by Kendrick Lamar. Okay. I love hip hop music and rap music, and I just kind of wanted something that kind of gets people going and gets you excited. When I hear that song, I always get excited to hear it. I actually think I heard it first in like an NBA promo video, and I was like, yeah, that's dope. I really like that. And so when I was kind of just searching for what I could come out to, that was the one that really got me going. And I really enjoy it. So there's a lot of promotions here because Reality of Wrestling is like a produced product on YouTube, kind of same thing. There's like copyright issues, so you can't use music like that, like that's by an actual artist because of royalties and stuff. So some promotions, if it's streamed or if it's produced on YouTube, you can't use that type of music. But when I work at other promotions where it's like not live stream, it's just like the live audience, I can come out to that, and it's always really fun.
And to me, entrance music is so important. Like with Hulk Hogan, Royal American,
Yeah.
Bret Hart's entrance. As soon as you hear their entrance, you know who's coming out. Like
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin and that. Speaking of that, have you ever met Stone Cold Steve Austin?
No, I have not.
No.
But
Hopefully
yeah,
one day,
he's
because
definitely iconic.
he's from Austin, Texas, and I just thought maybe okay, that would be somebody great to
Oh
meet.
yeah. Well, it's funny because it's like when he would come out in WWE, WWF, he was always billed from Victoria, Texas. And here in Houston, there's a lot of signs for like there's a lot of highway, freeway driving, and a lot of signs to Victoria, Texas. So I always think of Stone Cold when I see the Victoria exit.
Definitely. And that leads to my next question. Are you okay for about 5 more minutes?
Oh,
You okay?
absolutely. No worries.
Okay. What do you enjoy the most about being a pro wrestler? And then what is the hardest aspect of the industry as well?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think what I enjoy the most about pro wrestling, or being a pro wrestler is just like the passion I have for it. It is one of those things that it is kind of like a dream that you get to live out. And so when I know, like I moved from a different country, kind of left everything back at home to come here and to pursue to be like a pro wrestler. And it's been awesome. I've got to meet a lot of really cool people, got to work with a lot of cool people. And just like get to just be in the wrestling industry, even if it is on this like smaller scale. It is really, really neat. And there's so many connections and networking and people that you can meet that like you probably wouldn't normally meet. And you're meeting people that like you grew up watching on TV. So I think just to like kind of live out this like pro wrestling dream, even on the small scale that it is now, it's been awesome, and it's really been like fulfilling for me. And yeah, it's I don't know, it's like it sounds cheesy, but it's like, yeah, it's a fun dream come true, and I get to do cool stuff, and I get to hear from my family back at home about how much they enjoy watching me progress through this. So it's been really fun. The hardest part is, I don't know, I guess not to say it's the hardest part, like the most challenging part I think is like the grind, because you are on your own a lot. You do have your friends that you meet through wrestling and your connection stuff, but it is a lot of like driving places by yourself, going to like different towns, not spreading yourself too thin, taking care of your body with like injury and stuff, or if things don't really work out, like how you can like rework it, and kind of just learning more about yourself, because like you kind of go up and you go down a little bit. So kind of just figuring out what works and what doesn't. It is kind of too a business of where like trial and error. Some things work, some things aren't going to work. So that's probably the hardest thing too. It's like, well, I have this good idea and then it doesn't translate. So now back to the drawing board, got to figure out something else. So I guess the grind, but that's part of it. And it's exciting to be on that grind.
Okay. And I was going to say, your wrestling outfits, did you pick certain outfits, and do you have a certain color that you prefer to use for your wrestling matches? Like with Hogan, it was obviously yellow. It was
Yeah.
white, eventually yellow, and then Bret Hart, obviously the pink and black. Do you have a color or colors that you like to use for your cards?
I haven't really figured out a color yet. I think initially I wanted to do red. And then in that match with Lady Bird, she was also wearing red, and I didn't have anything as a backup.
Oh,
And then I kind of just started seeing that I was like, well, a lot of people wear red. So I got to get something else. So I did the white and black, which was kind of like what I mostly did these last couple months. I really like that look, but having to like, obviously you always have to wash your gear, but like when your gear is white, like it stains and you're scrubbing. And so it's a lot it's a lot of maintenance to take care of white gear. I just started having this blue gear, so I'm still figuring out the color thing, but I really like the white. But yeah, it's really like it's hard to take care of.
okay. Just had to ask you that
Yeah.
because, like I said, everybody's different. So, you still okay for a couple more minutes?
Mhm.
Okay. I always like to check with my guests. What's your favorite or most memorable opponent and matches you've had so far in your career?
The two that really stand out to me. So, my favorite and most memorable match is against Lady Bird Monroe. in Austin, Texas, in a trash can match.
Okay.
So that match, why it's so special to me is that it was the last match of like a 3-match feud that we had. So we really got, it was my first time really telling a full story about how her and I met at Mission Pro in that match that like we just saw. That was the first time we ever locked up, the first time we ever met, talked, anything like that. She brought me into Austin to kind of wrestle her at her promotion in Austin. And then we have a falling out, and then things get kind of ugly, and it has to go into a trash can match. That's how it ends. So I don't know, if people want to go watch it, go and watch it. You can find it on AAPW on their YouTube, and all their shows are on there. And it's just a fun series, and it meant a lot to me. It especially with the trash can match, even though it's like a gimmick type match, you have so much creativity, and that was probably in one of the matches where, because it is wrestling, so it's like you'll call stuff ahead of time. But in that one, we were able to just like improvise and make stuff up as we go, and it worked. It was so fun, and it was a really fun match to do and to be a part of. So that one's probably my favorite match that I've had. And then the next one was against at the end of the year against Danny B. She's also a wrestler who's also trained at Reality of Wrestling. She's from Oklahoma, and we had a really fun match here in Houston, which was like really great too.
Yeah, and also when I was talking to somebody, have you ever done any tack matches or Lego matches? I didn't even know they existed until this lady Addie Starr I had on a month ago saying she was doing Lego matches, and I said that I couldn't imagine how painful that would be to do those matches.
Yeah, I feel like Lego, I don't know, thumbtacks. I would do it, but it would have to be like on a bigger scale. Like I'm not going to do that for nothing.
And then some of these guys, the old school guys I saw at this card recently too, they wrestled in their bare feet, and I'm like, that can't be easy either.
No, and like I know one guy who wrestles in his bare feet, and yeah, that's tough. That's not an easy task.
Definitely not. And let's see. I was just going to ask you just a couple more quick questions. What is a normal day like for a pro wrestler on the day of a wrestling card?
On the day of the card, I know for me, what I try to do, depending on where it is, like where your time constraints are, because if you have to like drive out to a place or whatever. But if I'm wrestling in Houston, usually I like to get up a little bit earlier that day, get a good workout in, try to like eat healthy that day, and then get to the venue at call time, meet everyone, shake everyone's hand, say your hellos, find your opponent, and figure out what you want to do tonight. And
Okay.
usually you're there like till the end of the show. So it is a pretty long day, but like, I don't know, show day is always kind of like a special day. You wake up and you know it's show day, which is kind of cool.
Now, what do you prefer to start the card? Would you like to be the first match, or do you kind of like to do the middle of the match, or would you like to do the main event and be the final match? What's your style on that?
Um, to me, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I just want to be out there and put on a good show. I know it's like, there's the history of like, main events, like the big match. Everyone wants to be in the main event, like, of course. That's like the draw match. The first match is always fun too, because the crowd is usually pretty hot and you can kind of get them going. But I mean, you could be in the middle of the show and like, hopefully the crowd is still alive for you. But if you're putting on a good show and you're entertaining the audience, hopefully you can like bring them into it with you. So I don't know. I don't care where I wrestle on the card. I just want to wrestle.
What's the biggest crowd you've wrestled in front of so far?
The biggest crowd I wrestled in was in Garland, Texas. I did AEW Dark Elevation a couple weeks ago. So I think that arena holds about like 6,800, and they said it was sold out. So I guess that would be the biggest crowd.
Wow. And I'm a fan of AEW, by the way. I like what they're doing too. So
Yeah.
okay, and then this one I had to ask you. We're going to wrap it up shortly. Like I said, I don't want to keep it too long because I love to talk and ask questions. But what is your favorite wrestling move, and how did you come up with your finishing move? And do you prefer the traditional getting the 3 count, or do you kind of like to do any submission holds?
My favorite wrestling move. My favorite wrestling move, I do a sliding forearm, and that one I like because I can kind of get it out of anywhere, which is nice. And it looks kind of vicious too. Come up with my finish. I do a blockbuster off the second. That one I liked it because it has a little bit of like, a little flair to it. And what else did you ask?
Just how do you come up with your finishing move or a submission? Have you ever done
Oh,
any submission
submission.
moves? Yeah, submission moves.
Oh yeah, so I think I would prefer to get the 3 count. Like that 3 pop is always kind of cool. But I have done like a flying arm bar as a submission. I've never beat anyone with it, but yeah.
There's always a first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this one, just 2 questions, and we'll wrap it up. Do you have any rituals? Do you have any rituals before a match?
A little bit, yeah. I always try to like stretch. I'll do a couple like yoga poses that really like kind of just calm me down and kind of get me like limbered up a little bit. I always try to take a moment to myself to kind of just like be alone, maybe say a little prayer, just like for my safety and safety of my opponent. That's always important to me. And yeah, I think those are probably the only 2 things I do. I try to drink a lot of water, but then I'm like running to the bathroom all the time. So yeah, stretching and kind of just taking a moment to kind of just center myself, have a little prayer, pray for safety, and then and then get out there.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, you don't want to drink too much water during a match. And the thing is, if you don't drink enough, you'll end up getting dehydrated too.
Yeah, and then after a match too, it's like your mouth is dry, you're tired, you're looking for the water wherever it is. So yeah.
And how long does it take after a wrestling card to recover from that match? Or I guess it depends on your schedule too.
Yeah, it depends. Like as long as if you have a good safe match, it's like you should be fine the next day. And very often I'll go wrestle and the next day I'm up at 5 in the morning to go to work. So you just do it.
Okay. And my last question I wanted to ask you, any advice for those looking to pursue a career as a pro wrestling, get in the wrestling industry, and where can my audience find you on social media?
Anyone looking to pursue a career in wrestling, just don't give up. If you go to a place and it's not what you expected, go somewhere else. Just keep trying. And that's the thing too with wrestling. It is a people business. Some people you click with, some people you don't, and that's just the name of the game. So if it is something you really want to do, make it your priority. And if take care of yourself. So if you want a certain type of training, go find that training. If you want to get better at something, go train with people that go do that. You really just have to do what's best for you. And then on social media, I'm Gigi Wrestling on Instagram and Twitter.
Okay, and also I put that on my ticker, and also they can check you out on Reality of Wrestling as well, and hopefully you'll get some more matches with the AEW as well.
Yes, I hope so. I hope that's coming up in the future. So,
and last question before I let you go, AEW, WWE right now.
That's tough to say. It depends, I guess. Since I was at AEW a couple weeks ago, and like the culture there is like really, really cool. It's a really nice vibe. I have done extra stuff for WWE a few years ago too. But I would go wherever wants to take me.
Well, you have a new fan in me, and I'll do my best to keep in touch with you on social media and check out more of your matches on YouTube as well. And I just want to say, Gigi, thank you so much for giving me some time to come on live with CDP podcast today and talk about your career and kind of behind the scenes of pro wrestling as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Have a great day, Gigi, and we'll keep in touch and go win your next match.
Thank you. I'll try my best.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay, take care.
Bye. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my podcast today with Gigi Rey, a pro wrestler for Reality of Wrestling, ROM out of the Houston, Texas area as well. And you can check out their website too, www.realityofwrestling.com as well. And you can check out their YouTube channels as well. So anyways, guys, just to let you know, my next Live with CDP podcast is going to be Monday, January 10th at 5 o'clock Eastern with my guest, Edward Ford, He's a news producer for Fox 61 News in Hartford, Connecticut. He's also a huge Washington football team fan and a huge fan of the Capitals and Alexander Ovechkin. So we're going to talk to him about his career as a news producer and some Washington football and some Capitals hockey as well. And also, guys, you can Live with CDP podcast. The audio version is going to be downloaded onto Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, and my LinkedIn page too, if you'd like to check me out on LinkedIn as well. And also, guys, you can follow me on TikTok. That's at Live with CDP on TikTok as well. And before I wrap it up, guys, you can also check Gigi out on Instagram and also on Twitter at Gigi Wrestling on Twitter as well. And let's see, guys. Just want to let you know, again, Live with CDP podcast audio is now being listened to by 11 countries. Thank you so much for everybody listening to this on audio. And also thank you to everyone watching this today on my YouTube channel, Facebook Live, and Twitter as well. This is something I really love doing, and I'm really been lucky to get a lot of great guests on my podcast as well. And also, guys, just to let you know, 4 days after wide receiver Antonio Brown threw his helmet and dashed off the field in a game against the Jets on Sunday, guys, Tampa Bay today finally announced they have released him. They've terminated his contract as well. So we'll see if somebody picks up Antonio Brown. My personal opinion of Antonio Brown, he's a great athlete. He has Hall of Fame talent, but to me, he's a liability to himself and to a team. And you can't just walk out and quit during the middle of a game or whatever you're doing in life. And to me, like I said, he has a Hall of Fame talent, but he's not worth the drama. And to me, he's a liability as well. So. And let's see, guys. Another website I want you guys to check out, titlematchnetwork.com. That's titlematchnetwork.com. And like I said, you can check that out for wrestling as well. And also, guys, Saturday Night Football, NFL, Kansas City at Denver at 4:30, and then Dallas at Philadelphia at 8:15 kickoff. It looks like Miles Sanders is going to be out for that game. The Eagles have a couple players that are still on the COVID list. Dallas really can't get it the 1 or 2 seed. I think Dallas is probably going to either finish 3rd or 4th seed in the NFC. The Eagles are most likely going to finish 7th seed. But if the Eagles can beat Dallas Saturday night and the Niners lose their game, then the Eagles could be the 6th seed. But I'm most likely the Eagles are going to finish the 7th seed. But regardless what seed the Eagles finish, 6th or 7th seed, they're going to start the playoffs on the road, obviously. But you know what? After a 2-5 start, the Eagles are 7-2 in their last 9 games, and I believe also the Eagles are now 42 yards away from their most successful rushing season ever in their history since 1933. If they can pick up, I think 42 yards against Dallas on Saturday night as well. So, anyways, guys, like I said, I really appreciate Gigi Rey coming on and talking about her career, starting out in the Edmonton, Alberta area, and now working for Reality of Wrestling in the Houston, Texas area as well. Please check out Reality of Wrestling as well. And I was a fan of Booker T when he was a pro wrestler in WCW and WWE, and I remember him as King Booker as well. Anyways, guys, like I said, guys, again, thank you everybody for watching Live with CDP podcast, and we'll see you guys this Monday night, January 10th at 5 o'clock with guest Edward Ford from Fox 61 News in Hartford, Connecticut. So I hope everyone has a great night, has a great weekend, and will enjoy the football games on Saturday night and Sunday. And again, check out Reality of Wrestling and my friend Gigi Rey as well. Anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, listening to Live with CDP podcast, and we'll see you guys this Monday night, January 10th at 5 o'clock with Edward Ford. Good night, guys.